So I've talked quite a bit about Paige Bueckers' ability to create for herself, or this notion that she's too passive or not aggressive at times, and why I think that could be the case. But I haven't really talked about it in terms of the upcoming WNBA draft because there hasn't exactly, been a competition that has emerged. But lately, I've seen some discourse around Olivia Miles at Notre Dame, perhaps being worthy of that top spot over Bueckers. I've discussed Hannah Hidalgo at length, who I think is the best player in the country right now, but her backcourt mate is awesome as well in Miles. One of those kind of do-it-all point guards in the mold of a Jason Kidd or something to that effect. And Miles has back-to-back triple doubles, first player at a major conference to do that since Caitlin Clark. So all of a sudden, I've started to see that discussion pick up. I don't think ultimately it is going to happen, especially because of the star power Paige Bueckers has, and any prospective team is going to be very wary about passing up on that. But Miles is very gifted as a passer, and certainly is at least going to, I think, spark the conversation, because that is a hell of a backcourt that Notre Dame has. Now, if you look at, just what Miles is capable of doing, there, some of the plays are they stand out pretty quickly. You just see, the fluidity out on the floor for Olivia Miles. In this instance, she's just taking it the full length, uses that little hesitation because she's such a gifted passer. That draws the defense over there in that play. That's what allows her to have the lane, take the lane, and then, of course, score the bucket. Then you have, other plays throughout the game where she shows off her passing ability. She really sees the floor well. She's able to make all sorts of passes. Like, that's not a normal pass. Cross court, skip pass for the three-pointer. Most players aren't seeing that. Most players aren't making that pass. And that's why you have Miles filling up the box score. So far this year, she's averaging 16.7 points, 6.8 rebounds, and 7.2 assists, on top of 1.8 steals. Not to mention her three-point shooting has gone way up. That's the number I want to watch out for, is her shooting, because I think that's the separator. If Miles can become a legit knockdown threat from the outside, then she really is a bona fide prospect, like big-time prospect, because she did not shoot the ball well earlier in her career. She obviously had an injury as well, but so far she's been stroking it. And if she is doing that, then all of a sudden she has potential as a scorer as well, rather than just kind of a distributor and all around player, but somebody who can also put the ball in the basket. Now, again, it's kind of been decided and preordained that Paige Bueckers will be taken by the Wings. I think any team that is in that position would be very scared about not taking her and getting it wrong. But I've at least seen it bubbling. And I thought it was worth, taking it into consideration because of that. Now, Paige, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, if you will, because she is still a very smooth player. She is still a very good shooter herself. She still has the ability to be creative with the basketball. She moves very well without the basketball. She plays within a team concept. She can play make. She has relied a little bit on dribble handoffs and screens and the like. And there have been the questions about, for me, whether she is a strong enough ISO creator. But I would have the same question about Miles, to be honest. So I don't want to, be overcritical of Paige, and then not do the same for the competition, because it's sexy to sit here and say somebody should pass Paige Bueckers for that spot in the draft. So I want to be fair about all that. It's not like I'm looking at Miles like I'm looking at Hidalgo, who can score at any time against anyone, against any defense, right? So that's, if I'm going to make that critique of Paige, that's more in the sense of probably, how she's been dubbed a generational talent and who she's been compared to, rather than it is specifically in a compare and contrast to Miles. I mean, the other names you've heard near the top of the draft, obviously Kiki Iriafen, but she is a big. These are the guards that are there, and you have to take the teams into account, into play. So the Sparks have been sitting at second, and initial mock drafts had Iriafen going to them, but they do have some bigs there. So Miles could be a really enticing selection for LA at 2, which means she wouldn't get around to Chicago at 3. These are all things that come into play. But I think with Paige, it's just been more so she's been discussed, and once you're anointed, I guess is the word I'm trying to use. Once you're pushed to people, they look for something to they have like a little bit of a natural backlash, and they look for something to pick apart and take it down. And that is going to create some level of doubt. And I suppose myself, I have some level of doubt, but that doubt more comes from, I think, the other players that we've seen in recent times, both, who were just selected. Obviously, Caitlin Clark was selected first last year, and who will be selected going forward because we've seen, we have Juju now, who it looks like a top tier, you know, can't miss prospect, especially when you take into account her size. Hidalgo, who I just talked about, and other players like that. And Paige has been put in that group. And again, she's got plenty of time left in this season with UConn. And she's having a good season too. It's not like Paige is having a bad season. And in Dallas, where she has been selected to go, she'd be playing with Arike Ogunbowale, who could theoretically make up for any of the deficiencies that Paige does have with her ability to go get a bucket at any time. And that could make them a really perfect pairing. But regardless, Olivia Miles has started to play at that level where she is putting her name on the radar. And before, when people would say, "Oh, but I don't think I'd take Paige Bueckers with the number 1 pick," or even me, like, I'd be a little, worried about the ceiling, perhaps. And considering the hype she's had going in at number 1, it's easy to say that without saying, who are you taking instead? And now you're starting to see fans make the case for Olivia Miles. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. I doubt it's going to happen, but these things are not determined and set in stone as of yet. And as of right now, this is more a commentary, I think, on what Miles has done to raise her profile and to raise her standing in stock than it is her actually passing Bueckers. And it says a little something about some of the doubt that has creeped into people's minds about Paige, and the idea of being generational, which is a buzzword we see very often. But we got a ways before March. We've got a ways before the draft in April. But expect some of these conversations to make waves.